What's up my fellow thin-skinned slugs, it's Ari. In today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about some smaller brand dramas that have been going on recently. I know around this time a lot of the big focus on drama has been around influencers, so like your James Charles and your Tati and your Jeffree Stars and whatever. But I actually find brand-based drama very interesting, if not actually more interesting than stuff based around influencers being badly behaved. It's a lot more interesting to me when a brand does something wrong. I don't know. I just find it more interesting than influencer does this, influencer does that. Do you know what I mean? So today I decided to compile 4 of my favourite brand dramas of the recent few months and talk a little bit about each one. I do want to give a little brief disclaimer that a lot of the content in this video isn't just out of the top of my head. It's based upon a lot of different sources. I've got a lot of different things from Reddit, just trolling through social media and seeing a lot of the reactions from people surrounding certain brand dramas that have been going on. And all of my opinions are my own, and I don't mean to offend anyone by it. This is intended to create discussion, not outrage. So let's get to talking about some interesting cases of brands behaving badly. So first off, I'm going to start with the most recent case of brand drama, and that is with Wet n Wild. Now this is probably the most surprising out of all of the cases in this video, because I did not expect this to happen. Wet n Wild has essentially been lying about their cruelty-free status by selling in mainland China in a store with pictures and all sorts of actual evidence towards it, so this isn't just kind of a claim. This is something that has tangible evidence. And the thing is, Wet n Wild has been known to a lot of people as the big cruelty-free drugstore staple. So for a lot of cruelty-free makeup wearers, not just bloggers and YouTubers, but just people generally who use cruelty-free exclusively, this is going to be quite a big blow to them, because Wet n Wild was always very affordable and very reliable and just there, and now it's kind of got this cloud around it. Now, I'm not explicitly cruelty-free. Most of my collection is, with the exception of a couple of products, but my problem is more the lying. Kind of being like, oh, we're cruelty-free, support us, and then selling in mainland China without properly disclosing that. Fair enough, if someone wants to sell in China, that's fine. But let us know. China is a huge market with a lot of people who would love to have your product. But the least you could do for the rest of your audience is let us know. I think that better communication could have saved Wet n Wild a lot of blowback. Naturally, selling in the Chinese market is going to have blowback from cruelty-free makeup users. But at the same time, I understand why companies would want to sell in China, because there are a lot of people there. It's a huge market, and a lot of those people will want to wear makeup, so naturally a lot of them will want to go to that market. And I know that there's a lot of discussion about the laws of mandatory animal testing in China being amended or changed. The most I've heard is that pre-market testing isn't being done, but there's no guarantee that post-market testing won't be carried out on products sold in mainland China. Therefore, companies like Wet n Wild or any company that sells in mainland China can't be guaranteed to be cruelty-free, because there is still a chance that post-market animal testing will be carried out. And regardless of someone's stance on cruelty-free, I feel like the real issue I have with Wet n Wild is the dishonesty. Something incredibly deceptive about not telling people that you are selling in China and therefore not cruelty-free. But God, I didn't expect that. I remember seeing a retweet of the original tweet from Cruelty Free Kitty, and they tweeted about the store display in China, the literal store display in the Chinese drugstore, one of the biggest retailers in China for makeup or whatever, and I was gooped. I was like, oh my goodness, this is some kind of drama. And especially when I was getting a lot of fatigue from the Tati and James Charles drama, it was interesting to see something much more interesting, honestly. I just find it more interesting. But in terms of what I'm going to do, I only have one Wet n Wild product, and that is the Comfort Zone palette. I don't know, I haven't really been as interested in Wet n Wild products recently, and I don't know. I think it might be a case of just putting them on ice for a little bit, because I feel like they need to clear up this mess. The response from Wet n Wild has been it's been a response, but I feel like they could do more to build those bridges again, because this is a devastating move. And I don't mean them not being cruelty free, I mean them not being honest about that. That's my problem. So the next thing we're going to talk about is more to do with a brand owner than it is to do with a brand. But because this brand owner is so tied to their brand because of their previous reputations, it's hard not to disconnect the two, and that is Lime Crime and the infamous Dordia. So I saw on Reddit a couple of weeks ago that Dordia had made some comments about people being thin-skinned slugs, hence what I happened to call my subscribers at the start of the video, as a joke. I'm totally kidding, I love you all very much. But essentially it was something about Dordia making fun of people's appearance. She was called out about this, and she essentially called the people who were calling her out thin-skinned slugs, and basically went on a tirade about everything being offensive to everyone, and like, all of that bullshit. In the last video where I addressed problematic brands, I did talk about how I was giving Lime Crime a second chance, because I thought that since Dordia was to an extent disconnected from the brand, not completely, which I'd understand, but much more disconnected from the brand that she used to own, I felt like I was ready to give them a chance to not be as bad as they were in their heyday when it was Dordia in charge. And now seeing that Dordia is still whiling out, for lack of a better term, it definitely gave me a couple of second thoughts about supporting Lime Crime, and I'm still not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'd say the jury really still is out, because I'm not really sure what to do. They have some really good products, but at the end of the day, products are products. Pretty much anything's dupable. So I'm pretty sure a couple of days after, Doe actually posted a little Insta story, whatever, an Instagram story I think it was, proclaiming herself to be uncancelled, that she was uncancelling herself.
Delusion. Convince yourself.
Now, obviously, if you have any concept of how the world works, uncancelling yourself isn't a thing unless you actually provide legitimate reason or legitimate evidence to why the allegations brought for you are in fact untrue and you should be given another chance. Just saying, I'm gonna uncancel myself. Yeah, that doesn't work. What Dordia really needs is a sense of accountability. I think, I did these bad things, I've been doing bad things, saying things that have obviously caused an effect on people, going into a discussion about it, and maybe doing some apologising and some damage control. Like, to essentially uncancel yourself and to take yourself away from those actions and be like, oh no, I'm better than that. Because I get that vibe from Dordia, I absolutely do. That's basically saying I don't care about my actions and I don't care what you think of that. And in this climate, you probably should care about what people think of you, because personality is a big aspect of wanting to buy something. Look at Jeffree Star Cosmetics. Look how many people buy Jeffree Star Cosmetics because it's his face on the brand. Same thing with something like Fenty. A lot of people see appeal in Fenty Beauty because of Rihanna. I mean, hell, I see appeal in Fenty Beauty because it's Rihanna. Like, are we kidding? And even though it's a lesser case with Dordia, people still know she is one of the most well-known figures in Lime Crime. The only person that could possibly compete is their new CEO, who I believe is Stacey Panagakis. But even then, people don't really know that much about Stacey. They know lots about Dordia. So regardless of whether you want to have accountability for your actions or not, Dordia, you can't just uncancel yourself, because that reflects badly on your brand, whether you are the CEO, on the board, or whether you're in the stockroom making fucking lipstick. That's just the truth of the matter. It has an effect on the company and how people perceive the company. So buck up, Buttercup. You should know better. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a brand that I'm really fond of. This is a brand that I really have a deep affection for because I really love their eyeshadow palettes. I mean, I love the look of them. I've never tried them because international shipping fees. But I love the look of their liquid lipsticks, I love their message, I love their aesthetic, and that is Menagerie Cosmetics. But a few weeks ago, Menagerie uploaded an Instagram picture with a very long caption that really rubbed me the wrong way. The picture didn't really bother me. It was a mock-up of their new Whalesong palette, which, nice. It's a nice palette. Looks really cute, it's got some good undertones, got some really nice shades, artwork's beautiful, no problem with that. The problem was the caption. It was essentially the owner of Menagerie talking about how She feels like the brand isn't being supported enough. How she has all of these followers, and it's like, where are you? Why are you not supporting the product? And I'm really distraught, and I feel like my heart's broken, and I wanted to make this Whalesong palette, but I can't because there wasn't enough support for the brand. And part of me got that. Part of me sympathized with that. When you are working on something so hard and you aren't getting the results you want and you don't really know what to do, it sucks. It freaking sucks. You are working so hard to achieve a goal and something isn't clicking and you don't know what. And sometimes you do need to ask people what's going on. But something about this post came across as, oh my god, I'm trying really hard to not step into something less than favourable because I really do like Menagerie cosmetics, but this post really came across as blaming the people who are supporting their brand, because what I read when I read, there are so many people of you following this account, so where's the support? Now, I was one of the people following the account, and I still am. I've talked about them in my videos, I've mentioned their products in Makeup Loves List, I've mentioned their products in brands I want to try. I don't think I've had a bad word to say about them, and yeah, I support them. Can I buy their products? Realistically, no, because if I go on their website and I put in the Feral palette in the cart, for example, I really do want the Feral palette though, but if I put that in the cart and then we look at shipping fees, I would have to pay double that price of the palette just to get it. This is for the one item, nothing else. And realistically, I'd be ordering some of those liquid lipsticks too, but like, it's just not feasible for me to do that, for me to make a big order and have it shipped and have it be like full price as well, with very high international shipping rates, which I appreciate that that's not Menagerie's fault. USPS has some questionable shipping rates internationally, and I appreciate that that's not Menagerie's fault, but as a company, you have to understand that people internationally can't always fork out that much just to get a palette. Like, it's an eyeshadow palette. Like, I can get eyeshadow palettes from lots of places. And even though I do want to support an indie brand, and even though I want to support someone that formulates their own products and creates amazing packaging and donates part of the proceeds to animals, that's amazing. But sometimes brand owners have to appreciate that support that isn't always financial. Because it felt like that post was like, I appreciate your support, but really you should be supporting us financially or you're not really supporting us at all. And that just really rubs me the wrong way, because it feels like every word of support I've done doesn't really matter that much, and my opinion doesn't really matter unless I'm buying the products, which is kind of just, it doesn't resonate well with me. Also, not being supported? Go where? I've seen people with like 100k subscribers reviewing Menagerie products. I've seen pretty much nothing but positive reviews on their products. In will I buy it videos, yes, I'd love that, yes, I'd love that. So much positivity that it's like, it's mind-numbing. And you're saying that's not enough. Like, what are we supposed to do? In fact, the only thing I think that could be negatively put upon Menagerie is that their rebranding might have alienated people. Especially people who like the spooky aesthetic of makeup monsters and don't really resonate as much with Menagerie. Like, those are the only people, and I feel like they have legitimate concern anyway. So it just feels like Menagerie coming over and being like, oh, why are you not supporting us? I'm distraught and this is awful and we're not being supported. It's like, it's just, it sounds ridiculous to me. And also apparently something about Jeffree Star blocking them, like, I wouldn't complain about that. Like, that's dodging a bullet, that's what that is. Getting blocked by Jeffree Star, I'd be happy. Be congratulating you. There is one more point I want to talk about, and I also want to be very careful with this part because I don't want to spread any kind of false allegations. But the way that they handled releasing the Whalesong palette afterwards, being like, oh, because of the outcry of support for this palette, we've decided to put it on pre-order, and now everyone seems to be really talking positively about that. I couldn't help but feel for a minute that there was something a little bit orchestrated about that. Being like, oh, I'm really sad about this. Also, here's this design of a palette that won't be released because we're not being supported. And then, oh, yeah, we're being supported. Thank you for the love. And now you get the palette. It's like, there is something slightly emotionally manipulative about that. And I might be the only person on planet Earth who thinks that, and that's okay. But to me, that comes across as a little bit like it's a big yikes moment. I don't really like how that was handled. As much as I like the look of the Whalesong palette, I don't know, this has left a very sour taste in my mouth, and I don't know what to say. And again, You completely fine to disagree with me. I appreciate that not everyone's going to have that same opinion, but something isn't right about this for me. It just isn't. And the last thing I want to talk about is more of a whole brand issue. Less of a single incident and more of combined incidents that have really rubbed me the wrong way over the past couple of months. And that is concerning Blush Tribe. Now, I feel like Blush Tribe is a real favourite amongst smaller YouTubers, and at first I was like, oh, that seems nice, I can look at the reviews and see what I think. And then things started to feel a lot more artificial. It felt like every single time they were coming out with something, it was like, oh my god, this is amazing, oh my god, this is like everything. And I'm like, this is fine. This is fine to me. I felt really like they weren't as good as people were saying. And now I kind of figured out that some of that might be to do with looking in that old description box down there. And now I get that. And I'm a lot more wary of what people say about these smaller brands, because they might have that affiliation. But this isn't about that. This is about some more pressing issues surrounding Blush Tribe. First of all, they are private labelled. I don't have a problem with private label cosmetics, but I think you ought to be honest about it. If you are blocking people who ask if you're private label, or even accusing them of being competitors because of them asking a legitimate question, is the formula private label? Blocking them for that, accusing them of being competitors, is horrible business practice, and I feel like the owner of Blush Tribe has been acting incredibly unprofessional, and I don't know why it's being tolerated. And I get that if you're running a business, you might be concerned about negative feedback and what that can do to a brand, especially with how fast news can travel in the beauty community. But if you are running a makeup line, you need to have that consideration that not every piece of feedback you're going to get is going to be positive. Some people aren't going to like your products. Some people will think that there's a problem with the way you do things, and if you can address those maturely, then that's great. But if you can't accept that criticism, if you can't get that, then maybe this industry just isn't for you. The last thing I wanted to talk about was a video I watched a few weeks ago, and I don't want to go into too much depth about this video because I don't want to kind of speak for other people, but I watched a video review of the new Blush Tribe Neon Dreams palette from Annette's Makeup Corner, who I don't really watch very often, but I know she knows her stuff. I've seen her eye looks. She's good at what she does. She explained that in the review, she wasn't really a fan of the palette, and she went through trying the palette, and it showed that she was trying to make it work, and to be fair, she did actually create a really nice look, and I think that that was still good, regardless of the quality of the palette. But she was saying that she was having a hard time with it, and she didn't like the quality, and fair enough. That's the name of the game with reviewers. Sometimes you just won't like a product, and that's just part of it. But something else she said kind of was like, it made me think about what Blush Tribe is like even further. She said that she was worried about uploading this video because she knows that the owner of Blush Tribe could see it, and she'd had previously an experience with the owner of Blush Tribe when she had less followers, when she made a comment about one of the products without even tagging them, and the owner commented on that, essentially defending it and saying like, oh well, everyone else created good things and you should do it like this, which is kind of a little bit, one, it's like, oh well, everyone else liked it, so why don't you like it? Inferring that there's something wrong with her. When really, this woman knows her stuff. She knows how to do good eye looks. I've seen it. Like, lots of people watch her videos. She's good at her stuff. So insulting someone's ability is not a good thing for a brand owner to do. And also, like, explaining how to do it. I always have a problem with, like, explaining how you should use this because you need to do it like this with this motion and that thing. And it's like, no. Eyeshadow palettes aren't as complicated as people like to make out. Sometimes it's just a case of, is the product good or is the product bad? And in this case, it was obvious that this product just didn't do too well, and the owner responded very rashly. And that really sums up a lot of the issues. It feels like the owner just can't take any sort of criticism for this brand, and that makes me really not want to buy from Blush Tribe and not want to have to kind of get into supporting them. It honestly feels like the exact same thing as Morphe and big influencers, but on a smaller scale. Like, it's the exact same thing as far as I'm concerned. Someone gets an affiliate code to promote this brand's products, and naturally that brand gets incredibly positive feedback from it. That exact same thing that happens with bigger influencers, but just shrunk down to a smaller scale, And it works because you have a lot of people buying these products based upon influencers' recommendations. And I think we need to remember that just because an influencer is smaller doesn't mean that they're immune to that. I think that's something that isn't really addressed very much and needs to be addressed more. There is that element where affiliation can lead to a certain amount of bias, and bias isn't always a bad thing necessarily. Sometimes giving things the benefit of the doubt can be beneficial, but I think we really need to consider that if we're going to vilify big influencers for shilling Morphe, we need to think about what we think of smaller influencers shilling brands as well. Especially if those brands are accusing people of being competitors because they asked them if their eyeshadow formula was private labeled. I think we really need to hold brand owners to account no matter how small they are. And some of you might not like that, but it's the same thing with Dodia. If you're a brand owner and you do something that is considered a problem, that's going to reflect badly on the brand. You aren't representing just yourself anymore. You're representing a whole brand and all of the people that work behind it. So don't be surprised if people are asking you to be on your best behavior because you have a brand on the line. It's as simple as that. I've pretty much settled on the fact that I won't be buying from Blush Tribe, and there's only one thing that makes me kind of sad, and that is that I would have loved to get the Paulina palette because, one, I love Paulina. I think that she has an amazing eye for colour, and I love her tutorials. And also, this palette has a really nice colour scheme, and it's really nice with the combination of the pinks and the greens. I think it is absolutely beautiful, and I would love to support Paulina, but I just don't really feel comfortable supporting Blush Tribe. Not with how they are. I don't see it for them. I'm just gonna close my window because I don't want to be copyrighted for the music that someone's blasting out of their car. Be right back. So that's all I have to talk about today, but I feel like it's interesting getting into brand-based drama, because an influencer is an influencer, but a brand has so much more of a reach, because you have the general public who have a chance of buying their products and really knowing about them. Whereas with influencers, it's very contained in terms of the beauty community. But with brands, it's a lot bigger and a lot more intriguing as well, I find. So I feel like talking about brand drama is something that just fascinates me endlessly. So let me know what you think of these brand dramas, and if there's anything else you want to hear my opinion on, leave a comment. But thank you for watching this. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, subscribe to my channel below. As usual, I am Ariel Network on Twitter and Ariel on Instagram, so check me out if you want to see more of me. And finally, thank you for spending time with me today. Love you for watching. Bye!